So you want your forehand to be an absolute smash, but if we're being honest right now, it's more like absolute trash. I've been there. I lived there. But I'm here to tell you that there is hope. Because by the end of this video, you'll take your forehand from trash to smash. I'm Elijah Keene, and this is Elijah Keene Disc Golf. Welcome back to the channel. I am glad you're here. Today we are talking about leveling up your forehand, all right? And here's the deal. I understand the struggle. For the longest time, I avoided it like the plague because every time I would try to throw one out there, it would be an absolute wobble gobbler that was lucky to go 200 feet. So I just didn't throw them for maybe 2 years. But finally, I decided enough was enough, and I looked up every tip and trick and tutorial that I could to potentially, hopefully, learn how to throw this shot. And I did, and I put a collection together of tips and tricks so that you don't have to do what I did and spend way too much time figuring this out, all right? So let's jump right into it. How do we throw bomb forehands? Go from trash to smash. The first thing we're gonna get into is grip, all right? There's a lot of different grips that you could use, but I have found success with one far more than others. So I'm gonna show you a couple, tell you what I picked and why. We have the 2-finger stacked grip, all right? This is the classic, the tried and true. You take 2 fingers, you put them in the rim of the disc, and that's your grip right there. Another variation we see of this is the 2-finger fan grip right here. You'll see that more for like approaches and things like that, is when people like to use it. You'll also see people kind of put one finger on top of the other, and they'll do a little variation of it as well there. Another popular grip that you can see often is the what's called the power grip. To be honest, I don't think that this yields more power than any other grip, but that is what it's called. And so just like this, you fold your index finger, you stretch out the middle finger, and you kind of have two points of contact there. And finally, all right, we also see the 1-finger grip. Shout out to my buddy Brandon, who absolutely smashes with this grip. It's pretty simple. You just put 1 finger in and you do your thing, all right? Now, all of these grips have found success with people who use them, who try them, who like them. But I will say, for people trying to salvage a trash forehand, I think there's one that stands above the rest, all right? And that is the classic, tried and true 2-finger stacked grip, all right? Because you have 2 fingers here, it's a lot of strength, it's a lot of stability, it's also a lot of consistency. It's just, there's not a lot that can go wrong with this grip. I use it for everything, approach shots, drives, everything in between. This grip is just a do-it-all grip. A couple things to note, some people like to put the pads of their fingers on the flight plate so that the side of their finger goes a little bit more into the rim. Other people will advocate for turning your hand a little bit, putting the pad of your finger in the rim of the disc, all right? That changes the angle of the wrist a little bit. Both successful, it's definitely a preference. I came from an ultimate frisbee background, so I much prefer putting the side of my finger into the rim and then maybe just a slight turn in, and that's kind of where I sit. Some other things you want to make note of is you want the disc tight into the webbing of your hand when you set up the grip. If there's space here, then there's wobble here, and you don't want that, so you want it tight here. Another thing that can increase stability is you want your ring finger and your pinky finger putting a little bit of pressure on the outside of the disc. When you do all of these things well, you create a lot of stability in the disc, and that's what you're looking for. And that's the grip. Next, we are going to take a look at your setup, everything your body does up until the point that you actually release the disc. There's a lot of different things you could do, but I would recommend keeping it as simple as possible, all right? What I would highly recommend is a shuffle step. What that is, your front foot goes 1, and then you do a little shuffle, 2, 3. Again, we're here, 1, 2, 3. And on 3, you're gonna wanna stomp down fairly hard. It doesn't have to be crazy, but a good firm plant, because that plant happens at the same time as your upper body coils back for the reach back. So you're here, boom, and when you plant like this, it turns your hips and it creates this stretch from your hips to your shoulders. It's what we call a hip-shoulder separation, and it's like coiling a spring or stretching a rubber band. It's a great way to increase power. What do we do with the upper body? Let's start with the torso. You want to be slightly hinged at the waist. You don't want to be standing straight up. You typically also don't want to be way down here. Somewhere in between. It really depends on the shot, but you want to be in an athletic, slightly hinged position here. There's a lot of power in this. There's a lot of explosiveness in this athletic position here. And so that's kind of where you want to be. All right, next, let's talk about the elbow. All right, there is a lot of misinformation on the elbow position, on what it does. You'll hear a lot of people say that you want to keep your elbow tucked. And that's kind of true, but not 100% true. You don't actually want it like tucked into your waist, all right? What they're trying to get you to do is not have it like out here. You don't want to be throwing it like this. You want to have a good bend in your elbow. You want it to be down in this pocket here, but not tight to your waist. Anywhere in this realm here is kind of what you're looking for, all right? Now, what does the elbow do? You'll hear a lot of people say, lead with the elbow. And this is true, but it's also a little bit confusing because it's not always how you think it would be. When we hear lead with the elbow, often we think drive the elbow really hard. And although that can increase power, it can also greatly increase injury, all right? If you're driving that elbow through with a lot of force, not only are you creating a lot of instability with the disc, but you're also putting a lot of pressure on that elbow. You will very likely get injured doing that. And so what I like to think of it more as is the arm coming through, all right? And then leaving the disc back. If you think leave the disc back, arm comes through, naturally the elbow is gonna come through first. And so while I am leading with the elbow, I am not aggressively driving the elbow. Those are two very different things. So that's everything up into the release. Let's talk about the actual release of the disc, all right? Your arm comes through, and right when it's time to let go of the disc, you don't actually let go of the disc. Instead, you drive your fingers through the rim. That's at least what you're thinking mentally. It's what I'm thinking mentally. You drive those fingers through the disc, right? And so this is what you're getting right here. That wrist motion at the very end of the throw, you just drive those fingers right through. So when it all comes together, you do your shuffle step, you fire the arm through, and then at the very end, you drive those fingers, and that is the forehand setup all the way through the release. All right, so that's the grip, that's the setup, that's the release, but there's still a little bit more because you can do all those things, and on your first day, it could still be kind of bad, all right? Because you can't just magically get all of those things perfect, all right? At least that was the case for me. It took time, it took practice, and there's a way to progress it that will make things way, way easier, okay? So here's what I did. Here's what I recommend you do. So first, we're gonna eliminate some variables, and we'll add things in as we go. So what you wanna do first is eliminate the arm and the reach back, which kind of the same thing. But so I'm not gonna drive the arm first, and I'm not really gonna like reach all the way back here. When you first start, just keep it right here and just drive the fingers through, right? Just the very end, the wrist portion. I'm here, drive. There it is. One more. I'm here, I just drive the fingers through, keep it absolutely flat. That's what we're looking for. Do that until you can get a smooth release. Again, it looks like this from this angle. I'm here, I just drive the fingers through. Do that until you can get a smooth release. Then, from there, start adding in a little bit of arm before the wrist fires. So we're here, right? Now, I'm gonna reach back a little further. I'm gonna add a little bit of arm before the wrist fires, and it looks a little something like this. All right, from this angle here, go this one. I'm here. There we go. Now I still got a little wobble I'm working out, especially when I'm working with putters, but you do that until you start to get smoother and smoother. And then finally, you'll do full reach back, arm, wrist, once you get there, right? Then you get your full setup here. Looks a little something like this. And you'll just progress it more and more as you continue to get smoother and smoother releases. Finally, let's talk disc selection and angles, all right? The very last piece of the puzzle, but this one is so important. There's one shot, one angle that I would highly recommend you start with. This is your bread and butter. This is the hyzer forehand, all right? Why hyzer forehand? Well, the hyzer forehand for a right-handed player is going to, with a stable disc, travel from left to right? And that's the shape that we have a little bit of trouble with because we have to go to those backhand turnovers, which can be a little bit tricky. This is where having that consistency of a hyzer forehand really, really helps, all right? And when you're going max distance, you can choose a flippy disc, throw it on hyzer, and get those big hyzer flip max distance lines, both of which need a hyzer release. So let's talk about it, all right? If I'm here, a hyzer release, right? This is flat, this is hyzer, all right? And then this is anhyzer. So a hyzer release, this is what you're looking for. When you're throwing those stable discs, this is what is this? This is a Halo Tour Series Destroyer. It's very stable. You're gonna get those really nice hyzer lines that go for a right-handed player from left to right. Looks a little bit something like this. You can mess with the height, you can mess with the level of hyzer, but that is how you're going to get those consistent left to right swinging shots, again, for a right-handed player. If you're left-handed, it's opposite. But man, that is your bread and butter angle for forehands. Now, what happens if you take an understable disc, all right, and you throw it on hyzer? Well, what I find is this is my max distance shot. When I'm really needing to push distance with a forehand, I would choose something a little flippier. This is my Halo Strike, and this is my furthest flying forehand disc. The goal is to flip it up to flat, maybe a little bit of S-curve, and you can get some monster distance when you get the hang of it. It looks a little something like this. There it is. All right, that was a blast. So that's what we got for the forehand. All right, go out on the field, on the course, wherever you throw, give it a shot. Let me know if that took your forehand from trash to smash. If you like this comment, please like, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube things, and we will see you next time.